Welcome to Work from the Inside Out, a podcast that highlights real-life stories, practical strategies, and best practices for transitioning your career from unhappiness and dissatisfaction to fulfillment, meaning, and joy. Now here is your host, career and executive coach, Tammy Guler-Loeb.
Hey everybody, I am so delighted to introduce my guest today. He says he's a corporate employee with an entrepreneurial mindset. Mark Hayward is the host of the podcast, the Absolute Business Mindset Podcast. He's also a property investor and a business coach. Mark is joining us today from his home office in London, England. Welcome, Mark.
Hello, Tammy. How are you?
I'm well. Nice to have you today.
Thank you very much for inviting me on your podcast.
Absolutely. So, Mark, Work from the Inside Out, as you know, we like to go back to the beginnings and talk about how people started in their careers or even started envisioning their careers from a young age and the different steps that they took along the way or the different influences they might have had along the way. And we like to say, well, where did you start and how did you get to where you are and what were you thinking along the way? So take us back to some of the early years and tell us where you began and how you got to where you are.
Yeah, okay. So I got brought up in a family of four, my mum and my dad and my brother. My dad was a corporate person as well. My mum was in education, and I took a fairly typical route through school and university. I wasn't exceptional at school, but I was good enough. I took all my exams. I went and did a degree in politics, purely because of a passion for politics. I really enjoyed the history as well as the current day politics. So as I said, I did a politics degree, came out of that thinking that I wanted to go into policy. So I spent about 4 years in a policy unit in central government in London. There were good bits and bad bits of it. But by the time that I finished my contract, I was on contracts, I decided that it wasn't for me. I didn't enjoy enough about the policy work to want to pursue it long term. So I took a role in a big four consultancy firm where I took an administration role because I had no business experience. And I could have taken a sort of graduate role, but I really didn't think I could have stepped up and sort of taken that role. So I took an administration role, which I worked there for about 6 years. And it gave me a great insight into right down in the trenches, things like finances, things like we call risk management. So it's like compliance and some CRM, so some business development as well. And I worked there for 6 years. I didn't necessarily enjoy the job. There was bits of it that I did enjoy. The finance stuff I enjoyed because there was a lot of responsibility there. And I got self-worth from working in that area. But I knew that I wanted to do something more and I wanted to go into the consultancy side. So I took that step. The step was navigated by a really good line manager. And she got me into the consultancy side. I ended up having to do both roles for about 6 months where I was transitioning into the role. So I had some responsibility of some finances of some pretty big clients, one or two big clients that was hard to pass over to anyone else. So I ended up having to do both roles for a period of time, which was tough, but I knew that the end goal was where I wanted to be, which was the consultancy side.
So I'm curious. So just going back a little bit. So you finished school, you got into the policy work, worked in the government, and found that it wasn't for you. So that's a important self-awareness to have at a fairly young stage. And I recall that when we talked in our pre-interview, you took a little time away. You went on a big trip.
Yes.
And I wanted to note that because I'm curious if that trip had any impact on any of the choices that you made going forward, or whether you knew that you were going to come back and try to get into the business world. And you can talk about the trip a little bit if you'd like. Um, and I'm curious too, how did you get into the business world after being in the public sector? It's such a different switch. So I'm curious how that transition went.
So I took about 6 months off, traveling around Southeast Asia. I wanted to travel, a part of my sort of self-development and personal development. And we went around Southeast Asia, and we had no start date. Well, we had an end date, which was our flight back. Essentially, between those two periods, we could travel wherever we wanted. And I went with a few friends of mine, and really enjoyed experiencing different cultures, different experiences, and it was nice to have that time, because a lot of the times now I go on holiday, you've got a busy 2 weeks, you're flying to here and you're spending 2 or 3 nights, and then you're flying on, or you're spending 2 weeks in one place. This was an open-ended ticket in essence, and we could spend time wherever we wanted, and it was nice to have that sort of freedom. But I kind of knew it wasn't something I wanted to keep on doing. Like, a couple of my friends kept on doing it and kept on doing contracts and then popping back and going a little bit further afield. But I knew that stage that I kind of wanted to sort of focus on. It wasn't a career. I wanted to get back into business. And it was something that I consciously thought. I did a bit of exploration in those periods, just coming back from university. I did a couple of internships, which were really great experiences. But I just knew at that age, where I was probably 27, that I wanted to go into business. And so I searched jobs, I looked into it. I found the big four consultancy firms and sort of bought into the sort of methodology, the sort of way they approach things, and I quite liked the way they approached their business. And I thought that it would be good to spend some time there in the trenches and really work with a lot of different people, a lot of different grades up to partner, where we were doing some serious finances and working on how to make them profitable, and it was really interesting. I really found that quite interesting. So it was really just building blocks. I think I didn't realize at the time that was what I was building towards, but at that time, I personally, from a very personal point of view, there were opportunities that came up and I wasn't in the right frame of mind to take those opportunities. And so when I struggled with having really bad line managers, and then I found one that was excellent, and she spent some time with me. We were having Monday mornings before work started, we were having a cup of tea and talking about what I wanted to do, what the ambition was, and she sort of saw something in me that she thought could be crafted into the consultancy side. So it was a roundabout way of getting into what I say a lot of people, what some people get into at 22, 23, 24. It took me a little bit longer to get to that point.
Yeah.
But I think I got there in the end, and then the career just kept on. I kept on getting promoted. I kept on moving through the grades and doing and enjoying what I was doing.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, I mean, what you're really speaking to here is, you had a boss who took an interest in your growth and who you were, not just as a bucket of skills, but who you were as a person and what your strengths were. And it sounds like she really tuned into what what really brought out the best in you.
Yeah,
And
she saw the potential
yeah,
in me, I
yeah,
think. And I think a lot of the people that I'd worked with before didn't see the potential.
yeah,
And I'll be forever grateful for her for actually doing that.
yeah. And I think that, in some ways, maybe it even came at the right time, because I think there are a lot of people who get out of school, go into their first job at 22, and then unless they find themselves with a great boss or supervisor or mentor or someone, they might flounder around for a few years, not really figuring out who they are or where they want to go either. Um, and also without that previous experience in government, it's hard to know where you might have landed. I would imagine that some of your experience in government probably did help to inform some of the work that you even did in business, maybe even in risk management or some of the regulatory work or some of those areas as well.
I think it was all building blocks, and
Yes.
some people get there at 22 and know what they want, and they go for it. And I've seen people in the big consultancy firm get into quite senior grades very quickly because they have that focused. I actually think it's good for someone in their 20s to do a little bit of exploration, whether it's traveling, whether it's a couple of jobs, whether it's trying things out, doing internships, whatever it is. I think you can do that in your 20s now, and not necessarily be penalized for that. And
Oh,
so
definitely. Yeah.
I would encourage people to do that exploration in your 20s, because you don't really want to be trying to do that in your 40s.
Right. I think there's a time to really figure out who you are and what you're about. And, business isn't for everyone, right? So, so, so you really found your place, and it sounds like you were able to make some great progress and grow in that role and in that consultancy. So, um, what happened next, Mark?
What happened next? Well, probably the most pivotal point that I had, apart from the really good line manager, was that I got a mentor. I was recommended somebody, and this literally was a game changer for me.
Oh, wow.
And I would say anyone that listens to this, whether they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and have not had a mentor or a coach for a part of their job or for their business, I would say go out and find someone who can add value, and accelerate your personal growth and your professional growth. And so for me, mentorship and coaching is just so important for people's development. And you see the people that have those relationships accelerate and get successful and get to where they want to be faster, because it's a lot better learning from someone else's mistakes or things they've been taught, rather than sort of doing it on your own and making mistakes and
Right.
having to respond. So it accelerates your growth, definitely.
Or even in the process of making your own mistakes, taking those to those conversations with a mentor or coach and being able to kind of unpack those mistakes, learn from them, and then come out stronger for it.
Absolutely, everyone needs to make mistakes. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong; it's a way of the world,
Right,
and
right.
if people don't make mistakes, there's something wrong with them. But
That's right.
I, I would say, in the consultancy business, this is my personal belief, and this is not an entrepreneurial voice. This is a person that's worked in a big good global consultancy firm. Mistakes are accepted, but you don't make that same mistake again.
Right.
Um, and if you want to get promoted, you almost have to have a perfect year. to get that sort of promotion. So I was in an environment for a while where I found making mistakes was detrimental. Now, don't get me wrong, there is an element of you have to learn from the mistakes, but you have such a bank of knowledge in a big consultancy firm. There are people that have done it before that are more experienced. There's people that can help you along the way. There are administrators, PAs, secretaries that help you along the way. There is enough support in these sorts of businesses that you if you leverage those relationships which you build, and this is another one that I'm massive on, is building relationships with people.
Right.
I think is an incredibly important skill that a lot of people don't pay enough attention to, but they can really help you when you've got a delivery date or time, and you're up against it. Being able to call in for some support in a big consultancy firm is a must, and that is by being likable and being sort of being in that environment and working with people and giving people respect, and they give you respect, and they can definitely help you when not only when the chips are down, but when it's a tight deadline.
Right. Or when they need something, you help them. I imagine it goes both ways. So I'm curious, when you did get the mentor, was it just something you decided you wanted and you sought somebody out, or was there a period of time when you were in the consultancy where you were assigned a mentor, or how did that work, and what made you decide that you wanted a mentor?
So I kind of didn't know at the time. I sort of explained that my 20s, I didn't do much with my career because I didn't have a mentor or a coach to be able to, and that can come from a parent, from a friend of the family, another relative. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone that you pay to be a mentor. But I didn't really have that support when I was in my 20s. And I think when I was talking to someone and he said, look, I've got this mate of mine, he's a successful entrepreneur, he's worked in consultancy firms earlier on in his career. Why don't you meet him and see if he's the type of person that you think could help you? And my mentor actually starts everything from sales. And this is why I think my mentor it works for some people and doesn't work for other people, because he said to me, it's all about sales. You are actually selling yourself in your company. You are looking to influence people. You're looking for ambassadors, for people to recommend you. You need to influence others in the same way that an entrepreneur would go out and try and influence to be able to get a sale. And so he taught me sales skills and techniques and got me in the position where we were working really effectively at going through the grades quite quickly. And this is why I think it's so important about mentors, and you need to have a look about and find what's right for you, because the sort of golden rule is you should get somebody that has done what you want to do before, and they can fashion you through that sort of career path.
At that time, you were looking for someone to help you grow your career or put yourself in a certain light in the consultancy so that you could elevate your position. Would that be correct?
Yeah, that would be absolutely correct. Yeah. And I was looking for someone, and I got recommended. I got recommended from a friend, and met the guy and really got on with him, really liked him. And he sort of set out, well, when's your next promotion period? Right, we now need to work on who is important in your sphere of influence, and how are we going to influence them to believe that you should be promoted to the next grade.
Wow. But it sounds like the way you talk about him, it sounds like he did more for you than just help you get up on a rung on the ladder. It sounds like that relationship and the kinds of ways in which he worked with you did something deeper for you than just getting you to another level in the organization. There's something else there.
So I think with a mentor or coach, there should be a sort of personal development as well as a professional development. And I think that sort of goes hand in hand because, for example, he said to me, right, do you want to get to partner at your consultancy firm? And I was like, well, I haven't really thought about that. That's like a number of years in the future. He's like, right, this is what if that is what think about it. Do you want to do it? And I then went, well, okay, yeah. He's like, right, that now gives us a long-term plan of where you want to achieve in, let's say, 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And these are, so he taught me tools, techniques, tactics, but also he brought my confidence on as well. And while we were discussing things and things were working out, it built my confidence. It built my belief in myself.
Yeah.
That I could progress throughout a career.
Yeah, it sounds like he was almost partnering with you on your vision of what you wanted for yourself, looking down the road. It wasn't just, let me help you get from step 1 to step 2, but really helping you look at the bigger picture of what you wanted professionally.
And I think that is kind of the difference between a coach and a mentor. So for me, a coach is for someone that wants change and wants to progress, to get promoted in 6 months or whatever that ambition, short-term ambition is. And don't get me wrong, coaching can last for a long term, but a mentor for me is someone that is kind of looking long-term and sort of asking you vision, values, beliefs. And this is actually one of the things I do with my coaching, which kind of separates me from sort of life coaches or other types of coaches. I actually drill down to what are your core beliefs? What are your values, and what are your ambitions? And so I've taken that from my mentor, that's your starting point when you're coaching and mentoring someone is getting down to the base level, and then you can then build up the blocks to get to where you want to be.
Exactly. I do similar things, but I know what you're saying about, I think there's what we call sometimes laser coaching or short-term coaching, where somebody comes in and they have a very specific goal that's very finite, and they want to get from point A to point B. And that's really all they're looking to do. But then there are some people who really have either a broader or longer range goal. And that can take a longer time. That can be a broader thing. Or I've had clients, for example, who will come to me for one thing, and then they've come back periodically every few years. Yep. And we've kind of built something over time. But I like what you're talking about here with vision, value, and beliefs, and talking with people about their ambitions. And I can imagine that there's almost a layering or scaffolding of, short-term goals and achievements and accomplishments, but also keeping in mind somebody's visions, values, and beliefs and where they're headed, and that they can really go hand in hand with one another. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely. And I think that's what some coaches don't do, is they sort of set themselves a target of 6 months or 3 months or whatever that target is, and they sort of see that's the end. I actually think I really like that idea of being a coach, that you work with someone because they want change.
Right.
They get where they want to be. They then say, right, my priorities are now this and this. I want to take some time away, and actually coming back in a year or two and actually saying, maybe again, I want change. I want to do something different. I think that is a very fulfilling way of coaching someone to get to where their ultimate aim is.
Yeah.
And things change. Is the thing. Like these things are fluid.
Yeah.
And they change all the time because of lifestyle choices, like family, kids, whatever it is. Reprioritize and make people reanalyze. But if they've got someone they believe in and they trust, they can come back at a later stage and work with you again.
Right. So tell me about your identity as a corporate employee with an entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah. So this was a strapline which I created myself when I started doing my podcast. And the reason why I came up with it, because I, about probably in the similar sort of time as took my coach, my mentor, around that sort of time, I started listening to a lot of podcasts, a lot of business podcasts. So things like Tim Ferriss, Tony Robbins. There's a guy in the UK called Rob Moore, James Altucher. And I really got obsessed by listening to podcasts. And they are, in essence, entrepreneurs. Most of them, all of them are entrepreneurs and the entrepreneurship, which that's their drive. And it came when I started my podcast about 2.5 years ago. I thought it was a nice strapline, because what was making me differentiate myself in my corporate career was that I was thinking outside the box. I was thinking like an entrepreneur. I was thinking about how to make things more efficient, how to change things, how to reorganize things. And that was what I was starting to be successful. So my coach is an entrepreneur now. And so I thought to myself, well, I'm building up all this knowledge of entrepreneurship, of being self-drive, thinking about yourself, thinking about your values, but also actioning and delivering high quality. And it really found a nice meld. And now I didn't realize this until a little while ago, that there's now a term which is now intrapreneur, which is an entrepreneur in a corporate environment. And I didn't, when I started my podcast, I didn't realize there was a term of that.
Yes.
And so it worked really well for me, because it differentiated me from other people in my corporate environment, because I was there to challenge the status quo. If something's been done with a client for the last 3 years, that means that no one's hit the refresh button and thought about how they could do it better. And that's what made me different in my corporate environment. And that was why I was successful. So when I started my podcast, I thought to myself, well, I didn't have a mentor in my 20s. I'd like to be able to try to assist people in their 20s or 30s, where they are thinking about business, entrepreneurship, careers, jobs, whatever it is, and to be able to give them that sort of support. So my podcast is based on my first 60 episodes. So I've done 190, I think it is now.
Okay.
And the first 60 were just solo stuff. It was very hobby, like my hobby wanted to communicate things to people. And then a friend of mine said, well, why don't you interview me? He's a very successful property entrepreneur. And so I interviewed him and liked doing it. And then interviews became part of my repertoire on the podcast. So, but it was all based upon entrepreneurship driving me on my podcast, driving me in my career, learning from other people that don't always accept the status quo and want to challenge it.
Yeah. It sounds like fun.
It is good fun. And the sort of politics of a corporate environment, a lot of people get upset about it and get angry about it. It's a game.
Yeah.
Really is just a game. And there's ways to analyze individuals that you need to influence, and you need to make sure they're ambassadors or give you recommendations. And it's just a game. It's part of delivering to the client. You're playing that game in the corporate environment as well.
Yeah. So you work with your clients on that, and you talk about those topics also in on your podcast, the Absolute Business Mindset podcast.
Yeah, so I do now do a mixture. I do a release on Sunday evenings, UK time, interviews, and then the rest of the time I'm doing solo stuff. I do tools, techniques, tactics. I do experiences. I document some of the things that are happening to me. And I've been doing a series since COVID, which is a working from home series, which twice a week I release. Only about 5-10 minutes a podcast where I talk about hints and tips that I've learned and I've read and I've experienced on how to get the most out of working from home when you've got a corporate job.
Right. And when you're all of a sudden becoming a school teacher or all the other things that people are doing from home.
Absolutely. So I'm very fortunate. My wife works part-time, so she's been able to take the lion's share of the homeschooling. But there's been homeschooling. There's been like literally just spending more time with my kids has been an amazing experience for me.
Yes, I bet.
I'm very thankful for that. I'm very thankful.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are telling me. Yeah,
I've got kids 4 and 6, and so they're still quite young.
Yeah,
and since I've these 3 months or so, definitely been able to influence more on their day-to-day lives and be more involved in decisions, in thoughts, and it's definitely more of a consultative role between me and my wife rather than finding it quite difficult to be able to find the times to be able to discuss things and experience things with my kids.
Yeah. So are your kids now building their entrepreneurial mindsets?
As an interesting sort of concept. I would say they're learning from me at this young age that you need a good work ethic. You need to work hard. Don't get me wrong, you got to work smart.
Yes.
So just to give you an insight, I have a corporate career. I run my podcast. I have a couple of coaching clients which I'm helping outside of work. I've got a number of properties which I am renting out, and I've also got a podcast course which I'm running. And so there's a lot of juggling tasks and being able to do these things. And I think I'm teaching my kids at this stage that you need a good work ethic, and you need to work hard and diligently. You like, obviously you work as efficiently and as productively as you can, but it not to be scared of having a side hustle and try and develop other skills by doing those side hustles, which will A, help that side hustle, but B, help a career as well.
Yeah. So, so that's a big lesson, and they're getting a view of it up front, day to day right now.
Yeah. And they asked me about it. They still haven't really got a concept of what a podcast actually is. I kind of say it's like radio, but they don't listen to a lot of radio these days.
Right.
We've talked about it, that I talk to people, I have calls with people, and we talk about their careers, and I publish it. They're fascinated by me on YouTube as well. That's like typical kids of that age. They're more interested in watching me on YouTube and laughing at me, interviewing people and just going, "Why did you? What are you asking, Daddy? What's this all about?" So they're sort of seeing an insight of that as well.
I think it's great, though. If we can make any lemonade out of this lemon we call COVID, there is an opportunity here to get our children to get a view, at least, it's a different view, but it's a view into working life, or at least to see, hopefully, some of the parents out there who are doing work that they enjoy or they're invested in. And even though it's a stressful time for a lot of people, I love the fact that, that you're showing your kids what you're doing and that they have some curiosity. I mean, they're very young, but I know that I benefited greatly from having dinner table conversations with my parents about the work they did. And I know it had a great impact on the things that I did over the years later on, and that I had a value um, for finding work and finding a livelihood that would be fulfilling and meaningful to me. So
I think they will get that the older they get, and as you say, sort of like the Sunday lunches or the dinner table conversations when they're in their teens or early teens, and sort of wondering why, like, so they'll be a little bit more sophisticated to understand what a podcast is and why do I help people. And
yeah,
I'm hoping for them to understand that fulfillment is actually really important,
yes,
and reading your success, whatever your definition of success is also important. And I'm hoping that the older they get, they'll get those things from me, that a fulfilling life, a giving life, a sharing life is actually just as fulfilling, rather than just a job to make a
right.
lot of money.
Well, I think that's an important point, though, because clearly you are doing a lot. And if you weren't really enjoying it, why would, because you've got to be spread pretty thin at this point. So,
Yeah, there's a quote from Simon Sinek who says, stress in something you don't love. No, doing something you don't love is called stress. Doing something you do love is called passion.
yeah,
And I think that's just like I do the pod. I'm now releasing 4 or 5 podcasts a week with these working from home series, and I wouldn't do it if I didn't truly love it.
right, right.
And I just adore doing
Yeah.
doing these podcasts, and sometimes it's tough. Sometimes I've done an interview and then I've then got to release my own podcast in the evening, and sometimes you don't feel like doing it, but you've committed to. And that's the other thing
Right.
which I think is incredibly important in business and in life. If you say you're going to do something, you need to do it.
Yeah.
And I kind of think some people don't think that's as important as it actually is. If you commit to something, you need to deliver what you've agreed, whether it's a personal belief or what you want to deliver, or whether you're doing it for a client or whoever. I think if you've committed to something, you need to deliver.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I really do. I think, that comes under the whole category of trust and building trust. And that ties in with what you were talking about earlier with, leveraging good, supportive, respectful relationships, and how those can really build success, right?
Relationship building is the key thing to business, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
Whether it's a short-term influencing someone, or whether it's a long-standing relationship that you have with someone. It's like people I've met on the podcast, I've become really good friends with, and we've sort of collaborated and done other things, and that's really been important for the entrepreneurial side of my sort of life, because I've been able to engage with people who want to collaborate on different things,
Mhm.
and it's just so important. The other sort of theory that comes out a lot when it talks about relationships, you are the net worth of your network. Your network is your net worth,
Right.
and it's so important. The people that you spend the most amount of time with will influence how successful you're going to be.
That's true. Well, Mark, this has been inspiring and enlightening. If people want to find you, your podcast or your podcast course, your coaching practice, and anything else they might want to learn about you, what's the best way for them to find you?
Right. So the podcast is called Absolute Business Mindset. It is on all platforms. Wherever you get your podcast, it should be on there. I do a podcast course, which is abmpodcastcourse.co.uk. You can find that there are courses being run by Zoom now. So there is opportunities for people around the world to be able to jump on that course as well. And the coaching, I would say go through my website, which is absolutebusinessmindset.com, and reach out to me on there if you're interested in coaching from me.
And we will have all the links to all the resources to reach Mark and some of the resources he mentioned in our conversation today in the show notes. So, Mark, thank you so much for your time today. This has really been a great conversation, and it's really been interesting to hear about all the ways in which you've grown your career. And thank you again for joining us.
An absolute pleasure, Tammy. Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Mark Hayward. It was so interesting to speak with him and learn about his professional journey. What is your key takeaway from our interview? If you are interested in any of the resources or links mentioned in today's podcast, you can find them on the blog page of my website at www.tammygoulerloeb.com. Just look for episode 087. Are you thinking about what your next professional move is going to be? Perhaps there was a thought or idea that was sparked by listening to today's podcast that you'd like to put into motion in your life. Not sure where to begin, or think you would like some support? I am offering a 6-session small group mastermind program for women who want to explore their what's next. You will get the information, inspiration, and support you need to get where you are going next. Cohorts are starting on a rolling basis. By the completion of the group, you will be ready to take on new goals. Are you interested? Check out my 3 free tips and 3 free resources to help you navigate your career in a new direction. You can find them at www.tammygoulerloeb.com/3-tips-and-3-resources. If you are inspired by this episode with Mark, please share it with your friends and colleagues. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss next week's show. Remember, subscribing is always free. Are you enjoying the podcast? I would love to read your review on Apple Podcasts. It's easy to find through my website at www.tammygoulerloeb.com/podcast. Just click on the Apple Podcast button and follow the instructions provided there. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, it's never too late or too impossible to increase your sense of fulfillment and satisfaction in your work and other meaningful activities. Let me know how it's going for you. And who knows, maybe you'll be my next interview on this podcast. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Work from the Inside Out podcast. For more information, you can find us at www.workfromtheinsideout.com.